Today I'm going to be taking a look at the 2016 Powerpuff Girls reboot. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't ever the biggest Powerpuff Girl fan, especially of the OG series. Some people like to highlight it as one of the greatest series of all time. I liked it. If it was on, I was having a great time. I was like, I'm eating good. Don't get me wrong, it's a great show, but I'm not gonna just sit here and geek out over it and say it was the best thing ever. But when the 2016 show came on, I watched a few episodes and all of a sudden, I wasn't Powerpuffin' anymore. I wasn't really about it, and I thought the show was really awful. Can I remember a single episode? No, not really. That is why today I'm going to be taking a look at 2 of the best episodes, 2 of the worst episodes, and 2 random episodes to determine, was the Powerpuff Girls reboot actually that awful? I'm genuinely always so confused when people decide to make a reboot of a show, because I guarantee you studios like this at the time this came out got hundreds upon hundreds of pitches for a bunch of different shows, and they're just like, we must remake a beloved classic, a show that everyone loved, let's remake it with less writers. It always just feels like that, so I'm excited to check this one out. If you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. At 50k, I'm going to be cosplaying as Pops, doing the milk challenge, and going out to karaoke bars and singing Footloose. Jolly good show! As well as, if you'd like a place where you could talk about your favorite cartoons, movies, games, shows, all that good stuff, my Discord will be in the description. Now let's finally talk about Powerpuff Girls. Taking a look at what is said to be one of the best episodes in the series, with a measly 5.8 rating on IMDb, we're going to be taking a look at the episode Viral Spiral. And dear lord, is this just insanely boring. It is so unbelievably boring. The first 6 minutes of this do not need to exist even remotely, and I guarantee you, if you were a child watching this episode, you would have changed the channel, because this is so boring. This couldn't even keep a brain-rotted toddler who loves Cocomelon entertained. It is that unbelievably boring, and I hate to say it because I always go into these shows with an open mind, hoping to find something really good, something classic, but no, it's just not that. The beginning of the episode, the Powerpuff Girls, that being Blossom and Buttercup, they're playing a video game that apparently Bubbles made, and they're like, oh my gosh, Bubbles is a programmer! Yay! How exciting! Oh my gosh! And that took them 2 minutes to get to, and then we see the Amoeba Boys who are like, oh, I don't like those Powerpuff Girls, see? Oh, they're just so bad, see? Oh, what are we gonna do, boss? Oh, we gotta stop them. And so they're just complaining, and then Silco shows up, who is actually a decently cool villain, and gives them a hard drive to go inside of the internet to destroy the world, basically, and make the Powerpuff Girls very angry. The Amoeba Boys, they really want to do that. So they're just going about it, you know, the Powerpuff Girls for the next 4 minutes are just chatting in their room, talking. They eventually see that the Amoeba Boys are in the video game, which leads Bubbles to have a panic like, no! How could they possibly be in the game? I don't understand! And so Blossom and Buttercup, they have to go inside of the game while Bubbles is managing them to make sure that they stay safe. And you'd think, oh, well, that's okay. This is where the episode's gonna pick up. This is where we're gonna start having a great time. We're gonna start having fun, right? No, we're not. This series is just not full of anything comedic, even remotely. I don't think a single actual joke was told this entire episode. It's all visual comedy, and the visual comedy isn't even that good. Like, let me just play you one of the jokes that we got here. Okay, did you like that? It was kinda cool to watch the Amoeba Boys make a cat go from being grumpy to happy, but genuinely, the budget for these episodes at least has to be over like $30,000 per episode. It's probably more than that because you're paying all of these writers to come up with extremely comedic things to make children entertained, right? No, they're not. They're not entertained by the most basic, thoughtless jokes you could ever imagine. The episode continues. Blossom and Buttercup have to fight these pink things using rainbow trouts because they don't have their powers. That was kind of whatever. And they eventually start riding on Triceratops, flying towards the Amoeba Boys. They take out 2 of them, and then the Amoeba boss, he jumps onto a rocket that Buttercup shoots. He's rocket riding? Fortnite reference? Are we back in 2017, baby? Yeah, that still doesn't make the episode any better. I don't care. And then the bunny just eats the Amoeba Boy at the end, and then Blossom and Buttercup go back to the real world. And woo-wee, was that boring. That was really boring. I was hoping that the 6 minutes of just literally the most lackluster animation you could ever have, like they were doing the bare minimum. The bare minimum stuff. Like, it's genuinely the Powerpuff Girls talking, and then the Amoeba Boy standing there talking for 6 minutes before we actually get to anything, and then they go into the internet, and it's not even visually entertaining. It's just visually, oh, well, this is okay, I guess, with no jokes, no laughs, nothing to really shine. I don't know, I was hoping for so much more, especially with this being the best episode, but when it comes down to it, it's just really boring. If I was to rate this out of 10, I would personally give it a 2 out of 10, which really sucks for it being one of the best episodes in the series. I just don't think that there's anything desirable about this episode. Even if I was a kid, there wouldn't be a single thing that would make me laugh in this episode. I genuinely don't think I would have been able to get through it. It is just that boring. The comedy is sloppy. Even if there was any intent to actually tell a joke, there is just nothing worth saving about this episode, and I'm very disappointed. Going into the next best episode with a 5.7 rating on IMDb, we're gonna have Power Up Puff. Oh my gosh, but it's not like, oh, it's me, a Mario, I'm getting a power up. The Powerpuff Girls are getting their power-ups in a whole brand new way to where they actually get their powers. And man, is this episode a lot more interesting than the one I just watched. Like, compared to that other best episode, this is a breath of fresh air, like significantly better. Still not the most amazing TV I've ever watched, but at least it's a cohesive story and not 6 minutes of blah boring. Even the opening is a lot more fun, where they're just sitting down watching this cooking show, and there's this scientist who is like, oh, pigs in a blanket, yeah? Okay, that wasn't even remotely accurate to what he sounds like. I don't know. I'm just gonna go with it. Pigs in a blanket, yeah? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna make pigs in a blanket. So he makes the pigs in a blanket, puts it down, and then the pigs in the blanket starts expanding and turns into a giant pig made of bread with a little normal pig head. Very interesting, but at least this opening is a lot more cool. So the Powerpuff Girls, they immediately fly out of there to go and fight this piggy. They're fighting, and all of a sudden Buttercup, she has her powers. Wow, yay! Except she doesn't really know how to use them right away. And then Bubbles also gets her powers at the same time. And the only scene that I really liked from this entire fight was where Bubbles turns into a kitty and is all like, he must stop for a kitty. And then the pig's all like, and says, oh, a kitty, I must stop. I liked that. I thought that was funny.
I know. Meow, meow. Everybody stops for a kitty.
And then Bubbles and, Buttercup just lay waste to that pig, destroy him, pigs in a blanket everywhere, and Blossom doesn't get her powers. I mean, I could already tell when Blossom was in the clutches of the pig that she wasn't going to get her powers, and it was going to be that generic plot line where, oh, everybody else got something, why didn't I get anything? I'm useless! 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 But, man, oh man, do they hammer it home how useless Blossom is without powers, because dear lord, she's already super sad and she's just going around town, and there's this one scene where she's just walking and it says useless junk on the sign, it's pointing downwards. Blossom looks in a mirror where the sign is pointing and the mirror just breaks and she's like, oh, I get it. It's like, damn, universe, that's a little messed up if you ask me. So then the episode continues and Blossom yet again is just sitting down on the couch to watch her favorite TV show, that cooking show, and it's just so mean to her. It's just, you should really find a new path in life. You're not good at anything, so you might as well quit while you're ahead. Like, that's just what the show says to her. Just really hammering home that without her powers, she's just, you know, just a useless little creature. And so the doctor guy, he's on the show again, and he's all like, listen everybody, my meatloaf, you must try my meatloaf, it's going to taste so much better. Don't put down your fork. And they try it, and it turns into a monster once again. So the Powerpuff Girls must be called again to go and fight that monster. And Blossom doesn't even want to go, but of course she ends up going, and the fight is just really boring, where it's not really showing much of the fight. It's just like those one note, like slap, and then it cuts to the same thing, slap. It was really boring, but Blossom does get her powers and is able to help defeat the big thing of Meatloaf. Wow. I will say that episode was a lot better than the first one that I watched, so we're moving in the right direction, but if this is still the best you got to offer, then I'm still a little bit disappointed, to say the least. This just isn't that great. I mean, the beginning of it, that was a lot of fun with the pig, still nothing to really make me laugh, and then I did feel really bad for Blossom the entire episode because she was so sad, but I feel like the plot is just kind of overdone. I feel like a lot of different shows do this, and the way that they decided to go about it wasn't like the most innovative thing ever. Like, there's so many shows that have the same exact plot. Take Jimmy Neutron, for example, where he flies into the sun and everybody else gets super cool powers. Like Carl, he's like, "Wait, can I have your croissant?" And then he's like burps like super loud. Or Cindy has power. I don't know. Take Jimmy Neutron, for example, and Jimmy doesn't have any powers except he turns orange. And then all of a sudden, he turns into the literal Hulk and rampages for that entire episode. It was cool. That's just one example. This episode didn't really have anything that was that grandiose like that. It was just Blossom being sad for a long time, and then I was like, okay, when you gonna get your power? Cause it's just inevitable. And then she gets her powers, and then you get a decent fight, I guess, trying to be a little optimistic. If I was to rate this episode 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a solid 6 out of 10. I'd say it's above average, especially after I watched that awful episode. It really washed that episode out of my mouth. So it's okay. It's not the best thing I've ever seen. It was a really dull plot, but for this show, maybe that's all they could do. Maybe that's all they could manage. Heading over to one of the worst episodes in the series with a 2.1 rating on IMDb, it is the episode A Star in Blossom. And this episode follows Blossom becoming a jealous, just honestly bitch for the majority of the episode. And if you watched any of the OG series, I kind of feel like all the characters are very different from how they were in that series. It kind of feels like in the reboot, they decided to just switch up a lot of their personalities in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, the core traits are there, but they all feel very different to me. And watching an episode where Blossom is just so unbelievably mean to Bubbles, I don't know, just didn't sit right with me. Blossom always gets the lead role in the play, and she pushes Bubbles to try an audition, and Bubbles ends up getting the lead role. But that is when stuff gets weird. Now, this episode was bad, but I didn't think it was that bad that it deserved a 2.1 rating, so I decided to do something I don't normally do. I was all like, why do people hate this so much? I'm going to do a little bit of research. And God, I didn't know it was this bad. I didn't hear about this. What was going on in this show? Why? It's disgusting. So apparently there's this character named Jared Shapiro. He's clearly Blossom's love interest. There's literally a scene where Blossom is imagining a big muscular version of Jared Shapiro is holding her up, and his just muscles are defined, and he's holding up the 5 or 6-year-old child.
Jared Shapiro.
There's no one I'd rather share the stage with than you, my sweet Blossom. You have my heart!
That's not that bad, she's just imagining her crush. Well, apparently, Jared Shapiro is a self-insert of the creator of the show, Jeff Goodman. Jeff Goodman even voices the character. It kind of looks like him as a kid, apparently. And I don't know if this is just a full-on theory. Don't harass me. I read this literally everywhere when I was researching it. I read it on a bunch of different pages. That apparently this is clearly a self-insert, and Jeff Goodman puts himself in the shoes of a young boy with a 5 or 6-year-old girl attracted to him and really wants to be with him. That is really, really fucking weird, man. If that's fully true, yeah, I could see why this episode was reviewed bombed, because that is horrendous and very disgusting. Yeah, that makes the episode a lot worse, but it just doesn't help that, like, if we're just, not focusing on that Blossom is just honestly awful in this episode. It eventually leads to her just being so mean. This one kid makes, like, little figures of Jared and of Bubbles just for the play, and she just destroys them. I felt bad for that kid. Eventually the episode progresses even more, and Blossom locks them both in a closet, that being Buttercup and Bubbles, to make sure that they can't participate. And I was just thinking, Powerpuff Girls can't break out of a closet? That doesn't make much sense. But either way, they eventually do break out, and then Erica the Red comes down from the heavens and wants to be with Jared. Again, still very weird, and Erica is 3,000 years old, so Erica the Red is a pedophile, and perhaps Jeff Goodman is also a pedophile. I see the correlations, Jeff. You're trying to tell us about your sick fantasies. It's gross. I really wish I didn't research this one and I just went blind into it and said that it was an average episode, because now I feel disgusted. But either way, they go up into the heavens, and Blossom and Bubbles have an argument for a while, and Blossom realizes that she was being an awful dick, and she's like, I'm sorry, Bubbles, go defeat Erica, and Bubbles gives Erica a paper cut, which I actually thought was a decent way to end the episode.
Yup.
Ha! What are you going to do with...
So, yeah, you know, kinda a couple highlights here, but genuinely, if that is true about the creator self-inserting himself into the show, that is one of the most horrendous things I have ever seen in my entire life. The Powerpuff Girls are like 6 years old, man. They're just little tiny 2D characters. Why would you do that? And it just makes the scene where he draws his self-insert character Buff even feel even worse. I don't even know. Oh, it's just so gross, man. But either way, again, if I wasn't looking at that aspect of the episode, it was still just very awful. I don't like seeing Blossom behave as a malicious, evil intent person to her sisters, obviously. I'm sure there were some episodes in the OG Powerpuff Girls that were kind of like that, where they're bickering and stuff, but this just genuinely doesn't feel like Blossom as a character, and I just didn't enjoy that aspect at all. So if I was going to rate this episode 1 out of 10, knowing what I know about the actual real-world implications of this episode, I would give it a 1 out of 10, okay? That is abysmal, that is a horrible thing to learn, and it would be a 1 out of 10 episode. If I didn't know that stuff, and let's just say that stuff isn't real for the sake of my sanity, you know, I don't want to know about horrible things in this world, then I would give it a solid, like, 2 out of 10. Yeah, that's technically a 100% boost going from 1 out of 10 to 2 out of 10. That's a decent boost, okay? So, I don't know, the episode was just not good for any of the characters, really. I felt bad for Bubbles, I hated Blossom, the stuff with Jared was kind of weird, and I didn't really like Erica the Red as a villain. She was kind of just a, 3,000-year-old that wanted a little boy really bad. It was just overall a very weird episode. Not a lot to like about it. Definitely don't want to revisit this one. Yeah, let's move on. Another one of the worst episodes with a 2.6 rating on IMDb is the episode Rebel Rebel. And this episode just kind of follows the professor and how he really wants to make friends so badly, and he meets the Beaker Boys really early on, and the Beaker Boys just like to blow stuff up for some odd reason, and so they just do that for a long time, for at least 4 minutes.
Pour a bunch of this stuff on it.
It's just them going around blowing things up in a bunch of scenes that don't even look that visually appealing. Yippee! So 4 minutes of that nonsense, just like, "I'm Professor, let's blow this up. You know who else likes to blow things up?" That's it, except less hilarious with less funny voices. Yeah, that's all they do for a while. And eventually they're like, "Oh, Professor, bro, we really need your laboratory. You need to make a monster." And so the professor makes a monster, and then the monster heads on into town, and the Powerpuff Girls have to go and stop that there monster, so they head on over to stop that monster. And then the Beaker Boys are like, "We're taking your lab." Wow, the jokes are just writing themselves, huh, gang? Oh man, lots of knee slappers in this one, There was exploding in this episode, and a monster. That's it. Yay. And so the Powerpuff Girls are fighting the monster in some okay scenes, I guess, where Buttercup is trying to poke its eye. That doesn't work. Bubbles does like a key blast, key thing where they... and that doesn't work out. Blossom is defeated. So the professor's like, "Oh no! I must help my girls!" And so he creates a giant sponge monster to fight the eye monster. And the sponge monster kills the eye monster. Yippee! Are we having fun, everybody? Are we having fun yet? I'm really not having fun. And then the sponge monster goes and attacks the Beaker Boys at the end of the episode, and that's how you end it. Do I think this episode deserves to be considered one of the worst episodes? No. A Star in Blossom was way worse than this garbage. But either way, it's still not very good. It's really boring. I don't know. Following the professor as a character already isn't that interesting of a concept. And then when you make 5 minutes of the episode just being like, we're the Beaker Boys and we like to blow things up. Boom, boom, boom. It's just not that entertaining. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's really not. And then the big finale of the episode is just 15 seconds of the Powerpuff Girls fighting, and then a giant sponge thing just eats the villain, and still it's just not that visually appealing. The flow of the episode feels really weird to me. I don't know. Something about it feels pretty off. If I was to rate this episode personally, 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a measly 4 out of 10. I think the episode could have worked a lot better if there was less of the Beaker Boys and the blowing up thing. If maybe that was in the first minute and the professor was like, immediately, oh, I want to be your best friend now. And then he made the monster right then, and then we got more visually entertaining stuff with the Powerpuff Girls fighting the monster instead of just 30 seconds of it. And then the final battle, the sponge versus the eye, could have been a lot better if we actually got to see them do something instead of the sponge just falling out of the sky, landing on him, and then all of a sudden he's dead. I don't know. It just feels a little bit lazy to me. Just something about it. It feels like, okay, we have an interesting premise, but let's just waste a absurd amount of time doing the same joke over and over and over again so that we can spend even less time doing the stuff that takes more money, and that's actually animating a fight scene. That's what it feels like, at least to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's really funny to watch some scientists go like, we like blowing things up, you know? A douche, a douche. It's not entertaining to me. 4 out of 10, I'm not impressed. Going over to the random category with a 3.7 rating on IMDb, we have the episode The Gift. And I just so happened to land on a Christmas special. Oh, the seasons are greeting. They're coming at me. The festivities. This episode was okay. Definitely wasn't bad. I mean, the majority of it was entertaining. We got a nice linear plot. So this was a little bit refreshing after coming off of the worst episodes in the series. So the girls, they want to get their dad, the professor, a #1 dad mug. Hell yeah, brother. Get that thing. And they start arguing because, Blossom thinks Santa isn't real. God. Can you believe that? Santa not being real? Oh no, bro. Oh no, bro. Blossom doesn't think Santa's real. Oh, it's all over me. Okay, either way, Blossom doesn't think Santa is real, so they get in an argument, they break the cup, and this leads them to have to go to the store to try to look for a brand new one, and there's this redhead villain there, I don't remember her name, but she starts smashing all these cups, and she's like, I'm gonna make a fortune off of this money by making it sure that I only have one dad mug. Wow, what a plan. I mean, technically it would work, I don't know. If you bought a million #1 dad mugs and then got rid of every single #1 dad mug except for one, how much would that one #1 dad mug be? Interesting concept. I'm not against it, to say the least. And so the episode continues, and they eventually just keep fighting villain after villain after villain after villain after villain, trying to get their #1 dad mug.
Santa!
All right, you broads. Time to give yous the...
And I thought that was entertaining. We just get to see a bunch of different villains all wearing their festivities. They eventually beat up a pug. They beat up another guy, sending him over a mountaintop. They're beating up everybody, and they all come together to fight the Powerpuff Girls. But, they're really sad about the #1 dad mug, so the villains leave them alone. They go home to celebrate a holly jolly Christmas, and they're very sad because the #1 dad mug is ruined, but the villains come in clutch and they make a brand new one. It's a Christmas miracle. Thank you so much, Mojo Jojo, for making such an incredible Christmas. Yeah, it was all right, you know, it was cool. The professor was happy in the end. Yeah, just okay. It was fun getting to see all those villains get beat to a bloody pulp. The majority of the episode was interesting. I liked everybody hating on Blossom for thinking the good old Saint Nick couldn't possibly be real. Never stop believing, everybody. Yeah, it was just decent. If I was to rate this episode out of 10, I would probably give it solid, like, solid 6, you know? I wouldn't really say there's anything bad in this episode. The characters seem fine, the plot's fine, Christmas special, you know how it is. But there's not anything that's overly great that makes me ever want to watch this episode again. It was definitely just a one-timer, you know? It's not going to be a part of my Christmas watch list, that's for sure. Just definitely very average. Nothing making me want to come back to it, unfortunately. And the final episode that we're going to be taking a look at with a 4.5 on IMDb is the episode Mojo the Great. And we finally got an episode where Mojo is going to be the main villain, and at the beginning of the episode, he gets absolutely shit on by Buttercup, Blossom, and Bubbles, all using distinct traits of their personality. Buttercup being all strong, Bubbles being charming, and Blossom being the brains. He gets defeated and roasted on television, so he gets the great, beautiful idea to take away all of their best traits and apply it to him. So he uses his wit to kidnap them all by pretending to be a bunch of different people to lure them. And he lures them, and then I think we actually get some decent scenes, I don't know, I just enjoy it, where Buttercup wakes up confused that she's in a cage, and then we cut to Blossom, who now doesn't have her brains, and just kind of has a face like this. And I thought that was kind of funny, and she just keeps talking about corn dogs.
Jojo! I like corn dogs.
Wow, that was like the first time I almost got a chuckle in the entire series. So I was all for it, you know? If you're gonna make me laugh, you can make me laugh. And then Bubbles was also a little bit funny because she lost all of her charms. So she is just this character that's like, oh, why don't you do it yourself? Oh, I hate you. Oh, that's kind of the vibe that she gives off. And so Mojo, he decides for his big masterful plan. Now the Powerpuff Girls are gone. He wants to make the world rain forever. That was interesting, which starts Mojo's side plot of basically Mojo's arc, where he finds a bunch of sad animals all hiding from the rain, and he decides to put them all in a boat. Well, Buttercup is trying to plan how to get out of this little glass box. She must do it, and so she tricks Bubbles into using her super strength by saying that Blossom said that she couldn't break this box, so Bubbles just bashes Blossom's face into the box a few times, and that's how they get out.
Bubbles, come here,
I'm okay.
And then they just, you know, go to Mojo, trick Mojo into giving their traits back, and then beat up Mojo. That's pretty much the entire episode. It was definitely okay. It was probably a more positive episode that I've seen so far. I liked the plot. I like Mojo as a villain. I still think he's fun. Maybe not as fun as he once was, but still decent enough. I liked getting to see the characters without their main traits. I thought that was funny. I thought the Blossom wanting corn dogs thing was funny. There was a couple moments that genuinely almost got me to laugh here, so that's always going to be a positive when I'm rating an episode. If I was to rate this episode 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a solid 7, you know? I liked the flow of the plot, I liked the comedy, I liked Mojo, I liked the solution, you know? It was okay, fight with Mojo, even though visually it's not the most stunning episode, nothing too crazy happens. I think just as a plot, it was fun to follow. Is it something I'm gonna rewatch? No, probably not, but it's got some good things about it, and I don't think there's really any faults to make me hate on the episode. I just think it was okay, pretty decent. So yeah, solid 7 out of 10. So is the Powerpuff Girls reboot actually bad? I'm gonna go ahead and say yeah. I know there's a lot of controversy that surrounds this show, like the self-insert of the creator, whether there's more story to that or the creator's all like, oh, it was just for a joke. Well, then why are you voicing the character, dude, and making yourself the self-interest and like greenlighting them, drawing you with the character? It's just a little bit weird for me. And I also heard that there is an episode where the Powerpuff Girls are shown twerking, and if that is true, that's really abysmal, especially when you consider their age. I don't know how anybody would greenlight that and say that's okay. So let's just put the controversy aside, which already would make the show appear a lot worse. Let's put that aside. I think the show is really boring. It feels like a watered down version of the original and doesn't really have any of the charm. It feels like it's trying to tell new age jokes, but all of them feel really old, and it just falls back on visual comedy that again doesn't really work when I feel like the show doesn't look that great in general. I think some of the line work is just a bit choppy, and some of the scenes they progress really fast, but it feels like you're just skipping 2 or 3 frames. At least that's what I was seeing when I was watching it. I don't know. I was really hopeful going into the show that maybe it was going to be so bad that it was going to be good, but that's just not the case. If it's not doing something where the Powerpuff Girls are fighting a monster, doing anything like that, I feel like the scenes are really boring, and the majority of the time, if they are doing something that isn't fighting, it feels like they're trying to save as much time as possible or use up as much time as possible so that the fight can be as short as possible so they don't have to animate it. At least that's what I got from at least 3 of these episodes, where they were repeating the same joke that you've already told over and over and over again, if you even want to call it a joke, just so that the fight at the end is the shortest segment in the episode, and that just didn't really sit right with me. I don't know if a lot of people would agree with that, but I'd be really interested to see what the fans of this reboot actually think about it, especially if, have you only seen this or did you watch the original? Because I don't remember much of the original, but from what I do remember in my little brain was that it was a really good time, and I can't remember ever not enjoying watching the original. So is this actually that bad to people who are fans of it? Is it just tolerable? That's what I'd like to know. I don't know. I just think it's a bad show. I think it was just not a good idea to even want to bring it back, and they should have done something completely different. If you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe, because I upload almost every single day. I'm currently on a 11-day upload streak of cartoon content about all different shows. I got a lot of different stuff coming, like a Back at the Barnyard video, Flapjack, Chowder, Fairly Odd Parents, Mighty Bee. We'll see what that one's gonna be like. There's so many different shows that I want to explore, and I eventually want to get to movies. We're gonna be doing some Halloween stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you don't want to miss. So thank you guys so much for watching. Still can't believe that we're at 30,000 subscribers. Feels crazy. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.